Question number 2, Alec Rowley.
Presiding Officer, it is 3 months since we witnessed the horror of the fire that engulfed Grenfell Tower, killing at least 8 people. We have since heard from many experts that fire sprinklers in high-rise flats can play a vital role in saving lives. I know the Government have set up a ministerial working group which met for the first time on the 20th of June, and I do look forward to hearing what recommendations they will make. However, can the First Minister comment on the submission from the Fire Brigades Union at yesterday's Local Government Committee when they said, and I quote, "Scotland has lost 24% of its fire safety inspecting officers since 2013-14.
First Minister.
Well, of course, it is a responsibility of the Fire and Rescue Service to make sure they have the right staff doing the right jobs in the right place. I understand that the 68 uniformed fire safety enforcement officers that are deployed across Scotland, which I think was the number that was referred to yesterday, are supplemented by 13 specialist non-uniform auditing officers. And additionally, the Fire and Rescue Service has a team of senior fire officers who are also competent in fire safety enforcement, thereby ensuring a national 24/7 capability to respond to fire safety related matters. And of course, in the budget for this year, we increased the overall operational budget by £21.7 million to support investment in equipment and resources. These are hugely serious issues, and we will continue to work very closely with the Fire and Rescue Service, but also listen very carefully to the views of staff in all of these matters. As Alec Rowley rightly says, we established, following the Grenfell tragedy, a ministerial working group. That working group has now met on a number of occasions, most recently met last week, and is considering all relevant measures to ensure the safety of residents in high-rise domestic buildings. And since Alec Rowley specifically mentioned sprinklers, that of course includes a review of the evidence on sprinklers. We will continue to work through that group and more generally with all relevant stakeholders and partners here to ensure that we are doing absolutely everything to ensure the safety of people who live in high-rise buildings and other relevant buildings across the country.
Alec Rowley.
But it is, of course, the responsibility of government to make sure that the Fire and Rescue Service have the resources that they need. I have talked with many firefighters and have met with the Fire Brigades Union, and I have to say there are some serious concerns being raised. Despite assurances from ministers to protect the front line, the FBU say that over 700 frontline firefighters' jobs have gone. There are growing concerns about adequate staffing levels and the future of fire stations. Will the First Minister give an assurance to Parliament that there will be no further job cuts in our fire service and no programme of fire service closures introduced across Scotland?
First Minister.
Well, I give an absolute assurance we will continue to work with the fire service and work in dialogue with the FBU to make sure that we are protecting those who keep us safe from fire. We have sought to do that, and we will continue to work to do that, both in terms of the number of fire officers and others who work in the fire and rescue service, and in terms of the configuration of fire stations across our country. In terms of these issues, I mean, we owe an enormous debt of gratitude to all firefighters who do a very dangerous job to keep us safe. And in the aftermath of Grenfell, it is absolutely vital that we look carefully and critically at every aspect of fire safety, including all of the ones that have been raised by Alec Rowley today, and we will continue to do that. And as we do that, not only will we talk, as we do regularly, to the Fire and Rescue Service, we will hear the views of the FBU and those who work within that service, and try to come to decisions that are about not just protecting the frontline service, but also making sure that frontline service is configured to keep the people of Scotland safe. So that is an assurance that I will give the Justice Secretary and the Minister for Community Safety regularly of discussions about these matters, and will continue to do so.
Alec Rowley.
I mean, we certainly owe a debt of gratitude to all firefighters, of that there can be no question. But I do think, and I think the First Minister needs to look again at some of the big issues that are being raised, and I do think we do need some assurances in terms of further job cuts and closures that we've not had today. But can I say that it's now 4 years since the government merged 8 fire and rescue services into one, and I'm told that progress remains very slow in terms of harmonising terms and conditions and wages for firefighters, and this is causing a great impact in terms of staff morale within the fire service and needs to be addressed. Does she accept that a background of continuing cuts to the fire service is unlikely to help and resolve these issues, and that cuts cannot be allowed to continue within our fire and rescue service?
First Minister.
Sure, we are protecting those who fight fire and keep us safe. As I said, I think I said in an earlier answer to Alec Rowley, in this year's budget, of course, we increased the overall operational budget by over £20 million to support some of the investment that the Fire and Rescue Service need to make. Obviously, there are ongoing negotiations around pay and conditions, and I hope these discussions continue in a constructive way. Alec Rowley has asked me to look carefully at all of these matters, and he's right to do so. We have an absolute responsibility to ensure that we do that at any time, but particularly given the tragedy we saw happen in London over this summer. That's why the ministerial group is looking at all of these individual issues very, very carefully, and recommendations will undoubtedly come forward in due course, but why we also, in a wider sense, continue to have these discussions with the Fire and Rescue Service to make sure that we're putting in place the resources it needs to do the job that the rest of us across the country depend on them to do.